Welcome back to the Pixelists Podcast, my friends, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. As always, we're your hosts. That's Blake. I'm Will, and it's good to be back. I feel like I say this probably every time, but especially it feels like it's been a minute.
I feel like if someone was going to do like a shirt with like our memes, it'd be like, it's good to be back. And like something about coffee and whatever, that's a Pixelist lore drop. I don't know, but
100%.
We're rocking the tank today. It's that kind of weather now, huh?
Finally, dude. I've been doing, well, I was about to say this like everyone knows my routine. You know it a little bit, but I go on like a walk every day. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it inside for like the last 5 months because it's been just so cold. And so the weather's finally heating up. And so, yeah, I was like, you know what? Let's tank it today. I'm like pale as a vampire. So
no, I'm proud of you though, man. You're definitely the fit one of the two of us.
Bro, I go in phases, man. I fluff up for hibernation and then I try to, and then I try to get it back down.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's kind of fun having like the summer weather a little bit.
Yeah.
Late spring weather. We got SGDQ coming in just over a month.
Yes.
Whoa, really exciting.
It's that soon too? Yeah.
June 19th.
Wait. Is it? I thought it was July.
Maybe this is like a
well, because here's my thought process. Because it used to be July 4th, and I was always like, why do they do it that weekend?
Yeah, they have always done it. Oh, it is. It's July 6th. The reason I thought it was because I got an email from the Yeti saying gearing up for SGDQ, and then I could have sworn I saw June 19th on there, but maybe it was like because GDQ Games Done Quick, they also do like these other like mini events. So I'm sure it was that. But yeah, you're right. July 6th to the 13th.
Still pretty close though.
Yeah.
Grand scheme.
Yeah. It's a good time of year.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a while.
Yeah. It has. And I think it's because we haven't been doing Critical Role because that ended. And then we missed an episode of this. So like those two things combined, I think have made this one of our longest stretches ever without an episode, I think.
We've never in the history of the channel missed an episode.
I know. It pained us.
We missed when the reason for is because we talked about it. We never talk about the episode outside of the recording, and we chatted just a little bit. Yeah. And I guess I just thought, yeah, we did that. And
we both thought that. It was a perfect storm of circumstance because that happened, and also they delayed a week. Like Worlds Beyond delayed an entire week abnormally, and so that threw us off as well. And we're like, oh yeah, well, no, we talked about that one already. Yeah. So yeah, and I guess just real quick for anybody that might be confused, like listening to the podcast or something, if you're like, wait, and I don't actually, is this episode 47?
Yes.
You might be like, wait, it went from episode 45 to 47. Where's 46? This is also going to be our episode 46 discussion.
Yeah.
We won't talk about it like a full episode, but we're going to briefly talk about some things we wanted to.
But it's definitely not like we don't talk about 46. It's just, you just two, goobers who we messed it up. So anyway, I guess we should dive into it, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Are we, what's today? Today's Tuesday. I know we're 3 days out is a long time. Anything could happen, but are we live streaming this week?
Yeah, I think so.
You in town?
I'll be in town. Finally got all my visits done before the baby comes.
I'll be in town this week, but then next week I'm going to be gone for a graduation.
Oh yeah, it's that season.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. So yeah, in that case, Friday we should be having our live stream, and then is the Daggerheart thing this week?
No, it is in 2 weeks.
Okay, so there's nothing this week, I guess.
But session 0 is next week.
Okay.
So, but nothing this week, I don't think.
Okay. Well, still join the Discord, come hang out, talk Worlds Beyond. But yeah, I guess without further ado, in that case, we can jump into the good stuff here. And as always, we are going to recap the episode. Like I said, we won't be recapping episode 46. We're just going to jump straight to 47, but we will talk about 46. But, yeah, without further ado, we'll jump into our recap. And as usual, we will cut that out, probably host it separately for your viewing convenience. But if you want to hear our full discussion, be sure to check the link in the description of that video. But yeah, this is episode 47 of The Wizard Witch and the Wild One, Battle of 12 Brooks, Part 1. And this episode begins actually in a really cool way that we'll probably talk about in our discussion portion. But there's this very like old-timey radio, like museum description of the Epiphany, which is Steele's warship and like the best warship in the Citadel's fleet. Which is just a really cool description of like all of its ammunition and capabilities. And it really just like sets the scene for like how horrific this machine of war is, with the name Epiphany being like a double entendre for like, you know, a great discovery, but also what it evokes in the enemies that see this ship coming. They have an epiphany of like, oh, I've chosen the wrong side. Like I've made a huge mistake. So that was just an awesome way to start the episode. But we begin, if you guys will recall, with our crew here, Suvi, Ame, and Ursulon having kind of come out of this smuggler's tunnel they were in to the battlefield to try and circumvent where the tunnel had caved in. But that put them just in the throes of a battle with a huge dreadnought like right above them. And again, the Epiphany coming in, like launching missiles at it. So like they are right in the midst of war. And Brennan says like he's going to handle this an interesting way because like the scope of this is far, far, far bigger than them. And he's going to have them roll a luck check. And that check will determine just like how good they can roll on any other check. So like if they roll a 3, the highest they can get on any check is a 3. I can't remember who rolls it. I think it might have been Aabria, but she hits a 16. So that was actually like really good for the circumstances. And we basically then launch into this insane combat scene that Brennan describes as the Epiphany shoot the whole like crew of it shoots like 1,100 Irulian bolts at this dreadnought, and just that many wizards casting that spell just vaporizes it. The crew then just tries to charge forward. The crew meaning, Suvi, Ame, and Ursulon just try to charge through this chaos. And they have to make another luck check. This one, they hit a 3 though. So because of that, they're spotted by another dreadnought and an Imperial skyship that both start like pursuing them essentially. It's at this point that Yoren says, all right, you guys got to run. And then he sprints off toward the dreadnought chasing them, like vaults off of it onto the Imperial skyship that was chasing them, and then basically single-handedly tears this ship from the sky. It was like the coolest description of him like shape changing to dodge spells. It was really badass. And essentially Yoren saves them from that immediate danger, but they kind of lost Yoren as an ally in their crew. So we then have another luck check to determine how close the dreadnought that's still pursuing them gets to them. And Brennan says, all right, for this luck check, a 1 to 5 is essentially a TPK. 16 plus, you find the tunnel. Anything else is basically keep on keeping on. And Erika rolls a 5. And so Brennan's like, oh, okay. Everybody pick a number between 1 and 10. And then he has Lou roll 2d10. And basically, if Lou rolls those numbers, bad news, right? So I can't remember everyone's exact number, but Lou rolled his own number. So the dreadnought, this massive beast of war, attacks Ursulon, but it misses thanks to his shield and everything else. But this also activates Ame's curse, because Lou bears a token of the Witch of the World's Heart, which was like the fox drawing on his shield or something like that. And so because of this, she can curse as a reaction the dreadnought. And specifically, she does the leaden shoes curse, which means it can't move more than 5 feet and it can't make opportunity attacks, which is basically like the perfect thing in this moment that allows them to not be TPK'd. So it's a really cool sequence of events. Brennan then goes on and continues to describe just this vast battle that I can't do justice here, but one of the highlights was at one point they see like this golden frame open up in the sky, and a dragon like peers through this portal and just unleashes a breath attack that just like destroys hordes of these like Gauthmai soldiers. Absolutely brutal. And then we have more luck checks until a point where ultimately Aabria rolls high enough to have Suvi find the entrance back to the smuggler's tunnel, where everybody hops back in to continue going or attempting to go stealthily, if you want to take it from there.
Well, like you said, it's hard to give justice to the insanity of this episode, but they do make it through the tunnel. They come out into effectively what is like a castle courtyard and are basically attacked by a couple of wizards that have been holding up in this courtyard. And as Brennan describes it, they're pretty much shell-shocked and have just been like looking for, a way to not die and escape. The party comes in and they just reactively get attacked. Combat ensues. The wizards are killed, but we have this really interesting detail of Suvi asking Brennan, do I know one of these wizards? And she has a history check, and Brennan's like, yep, you do. This is the wizard Schilling. And there's just sort of like this very interesting, like there's no going back moment of realization of like Suvi now has killed one of her, not peers. I mean, Brennan describes Schilling as like the bottom rung of a wizard effectively, but one of her former allies she has now just killed in this attack. And as she's kind of like working through that, they are climbing the castle, and Lou basically tells Suvi, you should stay here. You should stay here. You shouldn't continue with us. And Suvi's like, there's no world where I'm not going with you guys. And Ursulon just lays it out and is like, I'm being pressed forward. I have a mission to accomplish. I'm on this quest. I will not be stopped. And you are hesitating. You are hesitant. And so I think it's best we're in two different worlds right now. And he's like, I'm going on. And he casts jump on himself and leaps off. Lou, by the way, also has 2 attacks as a level 5 paladin, which is fun. He jumps off, and then Ame, I think, climbs up like this rope or something, but says to Suvi effectively like holds out the hand to her metaphorically and just says like, hey, like we're all together on this. I'm butchering. I can't remember exactly what she said, but basically gives like kind of like the go between of like, it's okay if you come with us, but I'll leave this rope for you whenever you're ready. Well, as they climb, they get distracted by, I think it was like a warship coming in, but they see effectively the wizard slain, which the wizard slain is Merlin went to jail description. Like I think flying or in the battle. And then they see, which I think this was intentional, the same sorcerer who banished the rock.
Yeah.
The description was very similar, but basically a Gauthmai sorcerer who is described as like a beaming light on horizon who comes in. I think Brennan even said he had like 2 sets of arms.
Yeah.
And that this was like the leader of House Rounza, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So he's here. He flies up basically, unmakes slain, as Brennan describes it, kills slain, which was Silver's commander. So kills slain. Then as he like gives like the battle cry to all the Gauthmai troops, Brennan gives this impeccable description of very like intense anime-esque, like steel launching off of the Epiphany, doing like 2 quick slices of her blade. And then she has this absolutely freaking brutal line from Brennan, which is, you shouldn't have brought so many of your grandchildren, old man. And as Brennan describes it, she knows the true name of this man. And I think even says like dispels or unmakes some sigil or seal and then like stabs him through the chest. And not only does he die, but like everyone, all of his descendants all die in this moment. And Brennan goes, Suvi, what do you do? And that's when the episode ends. Episode 47, The Battle of 12 Brooks, Part 1. And if you're watching just the recap, click the link to give us your full thoughts and theories on what happens next.
Bro, that was so metal, bro. I could see the like Final Fantasy cutscene in my mind.
Yes.
Which I want to probably come back and talk about that moment, but because I want to talk about, I don't want to let 46 get completely left in the dust yet, but what was it? Did she cast Time Stop and then like do all of those things? Like that's kind of what I was imagining, but I don't know if
she had Time Stop other than I think it was just like so quick and epic. I do wonder, is there a D&D spell in terms of what she did that just like, I mean, is it effectively like a wish spell? Like, I mean, she killed not just this guy, but like, I guess wiped out the whole house.
Yeah, that's all of his like bloodline descendants that were present is what I took from it. Just crazy.
Dude, what an insane. I was like seeing all the forces of Galthmai and like, you know, the witches conclave. I was like, dude, the Citadel is screwed. And then these like last few minutes, I was like, okay, this is bad.
Oh, yeah.
Citadel's they're pretty serious.
Like, dang, I guess I see why she's the sword of the Citadel.
And then was the dragon also, was that implied to be from the Kasov collection?
I think so. I think that was like implied to be a spirit that they had, like, because all like the chains and stuff, which that was so cool too. That also felt like a Final Fantasy summon, like boss attack.
Also, I'm going to do something kind of tacky here. My wife, while we were talking, brought me a little egg on toast, egg sandwich.
Yes.
And y'all, I can't just just let this sit here.
Do it.
You know, so
we don't judge here.
I'll do a little mute action so you don't hear me crouching down.
Yeah, is that the is it an egg sandwich or is it that is it the well, you know, like everyone has a different name for it. I can't. Oh, yeah. I'm not looking at our actual. Oh, I can see it now.
Sorry, this is butter. This is butter on toast, and this is egg on toast.
I see.
You know, nice crunchy bread. I'll give you guys the satisfaction of the crunch. You know.
I didn't hear it.
It's because my microphone auto mute.
You know the what do you call the dish that's like a piece of bread with a hole cut out and an egg in it?
Dude, this thing is so weird to me. Someone just explained this to me. I knew what it was. Like, it wasn't like that potato Reddit thread where I'm like, what is that? But I was like, someone was just explaining to me how like this is their favorite way to eat eggs. And I was like, I have never had this and I don't understand it. And he was like, dude.
Oh, you've never had it even?
Never had it.
Have you even heard of it before?
Yeah, I'd heard of it before.
Yeah.
He's like, it's crazy. I think it's called like a one-eyed jack or something.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like everyone calls it something different. Like I've heard like frog in a hole or like like something like that.
Well, there's a restaurant near us that it's on the menu. That's how I know. Well, that's what they call it, one-eyed jack. So I don't know.
I've never heard that one before. But see, that just proves the point. So yeah. What do you guys call it out there in the world? Okay, but yeah, while you're munching, there were a couple things I wanted to touch back on 46 before we jumped into this one. First of all, I loved episode 46. I loved 47 too, but I remember after first listening to it, I thought about how good of an episode it was. I mean, there were a lot of moments, but primarily the moment with Lou and or not Lou, yes, but Ursulon, I mean, and Yorin and not the Night King. What is his name?
King of the Night.
King of the Night. I was thinking Game of Thrones. Was so good. Like I loved, like, I mean, we talk about this all the time, but I'll say it again. Brennan just has such a way, and everyone does. They all work off of each other, but Brennan has such a way of just being so poignant and meaningful, like just instantly. And like one thing that stood out to me in particular was when Yorin was, I can't remember the exact way it came up, but talking about how like you have to understand that every form is your true form, and like then and only then can you actually like be a true shape changer. I just thought that was beautiful, and I loved, what was it? I think Lou rolled like a nat 20, I think, which then allowed him to like get some insights on the stranger, and I thought that was awesome. And like just the like reverence the King and the Knight had for Lou in that moment as he became the spirit of something, freedom.
We've had some really cool moments like Ame similarly in
Yeah.
her cottage. I think underneath the cottage, maybe it was when the moment happened, but them like that sense of like becoming greater than yourself, I guess. But yeah, I'm liking the King in the Night because he's becoming less of like this is the baddie, in like this very interesting, like that reverence that was there. And then Lou, it's interesting that like if you looked at this conversation back in that spirit world, wherever that was, where it was like near the well, they were like very firmly apart. And Lou said, I won't be your champion. And it almost felt like if the sword was not already gone, presumably to Sir Curran, I do wonder if he had been asked again what Ursulon would have said in this episode.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because it does seem like they've got different goals, right? But it's not black and white. Like they align on some things. I think the main thing was just the Suvi and Ame, like where like the King in the Night was like, I have to kill them. You know what I mean? Like, especially like I don't think Lou would ever. Well, I won't say ever, but I still think that's a line he won't cross. But it is interesting given like his current kind of mixed feelings for Suvi at least. But yeah, I thought that's. Go ahead.
I was gonna say presumably that's because the two of them are firmly opposed to taking down the Citadel, and their allegiances may
That's
have
a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like I'm assuming it's because Ame was like Grandmother Ren and wanting to stop this whole thing, and Suvi was part of the Citadel. It's changed a little bit.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah, like if yeah. And I wonder, like, that makes me wonder, like, they're not obviously allies, but I wonder if there could be more moments where, like, my enemy is my friend type of situation. But yeah, I also just, it was such a, not that you need to do this type of thing, especially in a D&D story. Like, not every little single thing has to perfectly make sense, as it were, but I do like that, like the King in the Night being an insanely powerful spirit couldn't just go save the children himself. Like why didn't he just go do it? You know what I mean? But it's because like there were no roads, and the riverway, which he's like, the river's just the road of, I don't remember what he said, but they were like blocked off. So I liked that like he couldn't, and so that's why he was kind of like blessing Ursulon to do this in his stead. But yeah. Oh, while you're finishing eating, there was.
Sorry, I was muted and I was blabbing under my chewing my food. I did love that, and I also love just in general. Brennan is just so good at being so clever, so fast, and like it was almost like he was ready already. Like Lou didn't even really ask, and he was already explaining why the King in the Night was there because of the river.
Mm-hmm.
The other moment from that episode too was Enzo.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah,
dude, when he broke his bottle and grew into an actual demon,
that was so cool.
I was just like, bro, Brennan, you are like, and it makes, I think I mentioned this before. I have a friend of mine who used to live in LA and has talked about Brennan as being like king of improv. And so I just have to assume, I'm sure he's thought of some of this stuff in advance, but like, he's so good. Like, what I expected was like, you freed me, and then like fluttering off. And instead for Enzo to grow into an actual full-size demon.
Yes.
I was just like, dude, this is crazy.
I had the exact same thought because we were coming off the moment of Cyril, however you say it, the first ink demon, where they had this insanely beautiful, like heartfelt goodbye, where, he wrote like a poem and said this was like the most meaningful poem I'll ever write. And it was such a great moment. And then, she has 3 ink demons or whatever. So I was like, are we going to try to like have as meaningful and powerful a moment with all 3, which would be like kind of a tall ask for any table, So maybe it's more of like, and then, you release the other 2 as well. Like, let's continue on. But then like you said, whether it was improv which I felt like it kind of was, but even if it wasn't, just to immediately have another moment that's completely different in tone, but like just as powerful, like completely unexpected. And it was so cool to like reward the trust in that moment. Cause it would have been really easy to like, cause before he grew in size, it was like, do you trust me? Like, let me go now if you still trust me to do it. And that could have been the end of the moment. Like, yeah, okay, I'll let you go now. And then maybe we'll find out later if he ever did it. But then no, just immediately the demon thing. And then it was just a cool way to loop it in, and also loop in like the themes of the story with like the Citadel, doing these things to all of these creatures.
So I was gonna say I loved how not only was it such a cool moment, it was so perfectly on brand with the exact theme you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, of course it's a demon. Of course it's a demon that's been subjugated
yeah.
into, it was so smart. And man, I'm honestly, I think if you were to sum up this podcast, it's us like goozing over Taylor Moore, goozing over Brennan, goozing over I kept going to say Suvi, Aabria, I can't think of their non-character names.
Erika and Lou.
Erika and Lou. It's just
we're basically that Chris Farley sketch as a podcast.
Yeah. That was awesome. You remember that? Whenever Brennan comes on the show, that is what this will be. Remember when you said that? That was so cool, man.
100%.
But I was gonna say the ink demons being freed. Aabria said something. I think it was the question of, "Do you trust me?" Suvi says something to the effect of like, either yes or like I have no choice, but follows it up with, I'm getting rid of everything that like ties me to the Citadel. And there's been some thoughts internally and a little bit in Discord of like, is she fully Breaking Bad? Is this like she's kind of a middle ground? And this seems to me to confirm, like with the killing of Schilling in the next episode, that like ties are fully cut and like there's no going back. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts?
No, it definitely feels that way. I mean, we do kind of have that moment at the end of 47 where like she's kind of presented with this choice. Now, I think like she's made the choice, but it's like, is she ready to like truly, go all in on this? And I think she will and has started to take those steps, but I think she's obviously still wrestling with it. And I think Steele's the biggest thing, which I guess we'll talk about that a little bit more in 47. But yeah, I mean, I also liked the way that she realized she didn't have her magic focus anymore in the newest episode because of her dad's ring that she had left behind, which is kind of a cool way to like, I don't know the right word I'm looking for here, but to kind of like materialize that more like meta thing she's dealing with in the gameplay, which I don't think it was intentional, but kind of a cool byproduct of everything happening.
I think I thought it's just well done, Aabria. I mean, you have this within the table, a mechanic that most people never think about or ignore.
Yeah,
kind of like encumbrance, I guess.
Yeah,
and here you have her calling attention to it and also pointing out as a wizard not having it. I just thought that was very clever and very smart, and just a very good, I mean, she's a DM, so it makes sense, but just a very good acknowledgement of a mechanic in it playing out in game. And this is such like a weird thing to say, I guess, but like I think sometimes players just have a hard time connecting the world of D&D and the mechanics of D&D. And Bria just like wove it together so like effortlessly, which I just appreciate.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like most people would have easily just said, "Oh, well, yeah, that was your focus, but you just have something else. Like, you can still cast your spells." Like, So it was cool to tie that into actually what was happening. And she didn't end up taking.
She like made something, but then she didn't take it, right? Did she like make a quarterstaff and then like toss it or something?
I can't remember. I knew she was like thinking about taking Schilling's staff or something, but I can't remember if she did.
Yeah. So physically, she's waiting at like the bottom of like a rampart or something.
Yeah.
And then Lou and Ame have like climbed up.
So yeah, like
or
Lou
something.
jumped up and then left a rope
Yeah.
back so that Ame could
Yeah.
climb up. And then Suvi is basically left there with the choice of what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
There was one tiny thing from the previous episode I wanted to mention, and all I have is my note about this, so I don't remember the full context since it's been like a month. But I just remember writing down. I love how Brennan, like, he did some really great world building in like a joke moment, and it's referencing the moment where Suvi and Ame are talking to one of the shape changer guards, and they're talking about like, do you have sex in your shapeshifter form? And it was just like a joke, but then Brennan actually like really like fleshed out the world, saying that like, oh, like that's what we tell the kids. That's like the first question they ask, you know, and it's like, you'll get stuck in that form. And like, there was just such great, like a great little moment that he built there.
Very much like if you masturbate your eyes,
yeah,
your eyes will go blind or whatever, or whatever the old saying is. But you know, dude, I love that you mentioned this. Once again, just continuing to applaud Brennan, but I just have to admire, like, these players are just so good at like such. And I don't know if there's really anything that interesting to say about it, other than there's just something about a table where someone sees a moment that is so tiny and minuscule, and they aren't long-winded or like, okay, dude, but like they just build it into something just a little bit more palpable or tangible.
Yeah.
And that was a great example of that happening at this table. It's a very special table.
Yeah. 100%.
And then also some world building was in talking to Yoren about how the shape changers are effectively like conscripted into like forced to fight. And Yoren being like, you know, I want to kill, I don't remember which house it was.
Yeah.
But I think it was the house that's in charge of the aberrations, the dreadnoughts, I think.
I can't remember. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the specific name either.
There were a couple of houses and then like what their affinities were. And we've also heard this previously. Again, I don't remember the house name, but one that's in charge of like dreams, like nightmares effectively.
Yeah.
But Yoren being like, I want to kill the whole family. I want to kill all their kids. I want to, which was a nice, you know, kind of an interesting, nice. Yeah, I actually almost wondered, like, is he here at 12 Brooks because he has to be? Or like how much autonomy has led him to this moment?
Yeah.
Was kind of what I was wondering. But again, some really interesting lore.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I forgot that, but I remembered I wanted to bring up that moment too, because we have heard like little snippets of lore when Brennan's provided it like way earlier in this show about how like the shape changers were kind of like subjugated and stuff. But I also just loved that moment from Yoren, because it shows like just the nastiness of war, right? Like, because he's kind of been having a redemption in the narrative's eyes recently, in terms of like, oh, he didn't kill Suvi's parents. Oh, he's like, he saved them. He's helping them now. Like, he's a good guy. But even he still has been marred by this generational trauma, right? He wants to kill everyone that's ever flown that flag, which definitely includes like innocent children. You know what I mean? So I think it was a good depiction of like the reality of war, I feel like.
I want to find, since you said that, I want to see if I can find. Man, I want to give credit to the person who said it, and so I'm trying to find it, but I can't locate it. This is not my thought. This came from someone on Reddit, and I just apologize. I can't pull it up. They don't have it tagged anymore or pinned at the top anymore. The episode discussion, but on your comment of the senselessness of war, there were two great data points in episode 47. One was like the 12-foot. What were they called? Like the Warriors of Galthmai?
Oh yeah,
like
the cousins.
Maybe they were called like Untgar or something, or it was like a perfect Galthmai name. I was like, yes, I can totally visualize that. But Brennan talked about Ame seeing the face of one and realizing like you hear about these 12-foot soldiers, you're thinking like basically Spartan warriors, but
Yeah.
how one was like a 17 or 18-year-old,
Yeah.
and how like Ame knew in that like this young boy was effectively about to see the end of his life. There was that, and then the other one about one of the warships getting destroyed, and Brennan just offhand says, a wizard who like studied the secrets of the universe
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
killed. And it didn't click for me. I was like, why does that resonate with me so much? And then I read this Reddit comment where someone basically said he's illustrating like the senselessness of war, like these things that are so innocent and beautiful, and
Yeah.
like all the lost knowledge and potential. And I just love how Brennan just so offhand communicates that.
Yeah.
And also like that whole battle scene of like the airships first descending, and like you mentioned, the recap, the Urillian, like the 1600 Urillian bolts. And
Yeah.
like, dude, I was like, this might be my favorite episode, honestly. I know I'm now have jumped into 47, but
I think we're pretty much there.
yeah, I mean, this was just, it's hard to describe carnage like in an audio way, and I feel like Brennan just did such a great job
Yeah.
with
I agree.
characterizing how awful this battle is.
Yeah. It did a great job of setting the scene of like what, like the chaos and the scale. And then, of course, Taylor Moore's soundtrack to it all was impeccable. And
Yep.
now to cycle back a little bit to the start of the episode, might have been like my favorite little moment. Instantly gave me BioShock vibes.
Yes.
Like, stumbling across like a little video diary that explains something, the old timey voice. And
Yes.
I was listening to the fireside chat. That was Taylor's idea. And so that again speaks to just like how
Great job, Taylor.
how skilled he is in recognizing these types of opportunities. And then Brennan said he had like such a blast like coming up with the ship, and specifically the name of the ship, which we already talked about a little bit. But yeah, I just thought that was so brilliant.
That didn't click for me either until, again, I read a Reddit comment about like the brilliance of this ship that just inspires, you're going to have an epiphany that you're on the wrong side. I just was like, yes, let's go. Dude, I did not expect such a crazy battle scene to open up, and it almost kind of reminded me of Game of Thrones. What's the battle where Kit Harington is like dodging the horses and stuff? Is just like people are getting slaughtered around him, and he's just like moving forward. I kind of got that vibe of the party just like trying to get to the tunnel as like dreadnoughts like collapsing on them, ships are being destroyed, people's heads are getting decapitated, like
people's birds, pets' heads are flying off.
I mean, just
yeah, no, totally. I was imagining like I was kind of having a hard time imagining or I wasn't having a hard time, but what the dreadnought actually was. And so I was thinking like Zerg Overlord kind of, especially because they like had like enemies like pop out of them, So I was imagining like very like War of the Worlds, like StarCraft battlefield going on.
I think there's an image of them, the concept art before the season released. It's that Instagram photo of like the tentacles, like the quadrupod. It's very like Half-Life 2 meets the Colossi from StarCraft meets, like you mentioned, like Zerg Overlord.
Yeah. Okay, I'll have to look that up again.
It's definitely a combination of all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also like Cloverfield vibes is what I got of like all the creatures like launching out of it. Like, dude, I'm getting giddy just thinking about this episode. Like, this was just so crazy and just, oh man, it's hard for me to like fully articulate all the things that I really enjoyed about it. But, dude, anyway, I was gonna point something else out that I saw. This came from the fireside chat. If I can find it here. Let's see here. It was quoted. Oh man, where is this? Sorry guys, I wasn't expecting to mention this, and then now I'm looking for it to find it. Where he's basically talking. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So I'm just going to read this quote because I just think it's so well articulated by Brennan.
Yeah.
But he says, we have people listening to this story as we're telling it. If I empower you guys by suggesting that the problems of the world are all bite-sized, we've made something that makes us temporarily feel good and has virtually no meaning in the world for people who live in a place where problems are meaningfully beyond them. 5,000 damage problems, referencing the Dreadnought and the TPK comment. And what I wanted this episode to feel like is, oh yeah, you can't stop 5,000 damage, but you can keep your head down and get to that tunnel. You can keep your head down, get to the tunnel. It's what you need to do. That's who's counting on you. There's someone on the other side of that tunnel who's counting on you to get there, and you can't gawk at the 5,000 damage and feel paralyzed. Which, I mean, the level of like deep thought Brennan has put into this, I'm just like, bro.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Real good. I've never listened to any other actual plays other than Critical Role, but not an audio one. So I wonder how others compare, but this has been so good. And like you mentioned, this episode especially, I mean, Taylor, it was just so well designed and done. And there's also like a thematic, it's not like a track, it's like a vibe. It's very Elden Ring-esque is how I've mentioned it to you. Like Limgrave, if you remember that OST. It's very that-esque, and there's some variations of it. I would love for there to be some kind of like soundtrack release when everything is said and done.
Yeah.
Because I would be all over that.
I think they've mentioned, I can't remember when, but I feel like that was mentioned at one point because they talked about, like they put out the witch class. They're going to, they're ultimately going to put these things out. I think soundtrack was one of those things. It might be a while, but I do think it was something they wanted to do.
There'd probably be some like navigating there because some of the tracks are like compilations, but like based sometimes around other like classical track. Like it's like there's some like tweaking and moving and changing that's happening. So I wonder if like a copyright perspective, if there's anything there that they're having to navigate, or I don't know, but I would just love to get it.
Yeah.
But, well, in this episode, the TPK thing scared me. I'm glad it was Lou and not someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone dies right there, you can't like stop in the middle of a battle and really do anything. I will say, let me pull up if I can find it. This reminded me of the conversation I had with Taylor when I reached out in early April and said, hey, I'm really excited for this. And he said, the ending feels like a major ending. He said, I've never seen dice like this. There's moments where, the dice rolls just made me consider God might be real and is on our side. People will think we faked it. It's so incredible. And Taylor, I apologize to pull. We know Taylor listens. Just to pull verbatim, it's probably not super appropriate. But all this to say, I had that thought with the roll of the 5 and then Ursulon rolling his own number of just like, oh man, if this had been anyone else. And I think Lou actually even says that, like, if this had been anyone else, it would have been really bad. But
yeah. And then that curse, Ame, like, or
Perfect.
Erika, like realizing in that moment that she could do that was also huge. Like, I don't know how Brennan was planning on playing out like the next rounds of that, but that just prevented it, So crazy.
I will say that,
yeah,
from a DM perspective, I will say that sometimes DMs are scared to put their players in really difficult situations, but I have found that your players typically get very resourceful and they remember, oh wait, I have something that I can use there.
Yeah.
Like I had a player who I had given him an item that would let him teleport. It was like Misty Step effectively.
Yeah.
But a special feature of it was, I was like, you can choose to throw this at a creature. And if you hit them, it's a dex save or a dex attack basically.
Yeah.
and it will send them to any dimension of your choosing.
Oh.
And so there, in my campaign, there's a dimension that no one can leave, like a prison dimension that had gotten brought up early in the story, just referenced.
Yeah.
And in this moment, they were fighting the big bad level 20 wizard, and they're like level 9.
Uh-oh.
And was like, we're effed. And then my player was like, I have this orb. And I didn't even think of it.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what they're going to do. And ended up, hit him with it, sent him. He's like, I want to send him to that dimension, which was also incredibly brilliant.
Yeah.
Point being, it's just funny how in these intense moments, how players can really like Ame had that curse ready. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And you could hear Brennan just kind of even giddy himself, oh my gosh, this is so smart.
Yeah.
So I guess
kind of
like the story,
the fight or flight, you kind of are just forced to come up with those things. So wait, is your level 20 BBEG stuck in the prison realm now?
For now.
Okay. So not that we need to get. You go ahead.
Well, not to belabor it, but the only thing that's also bad is, this is classic D&D, but the source of all magic in the world was sealed away in that dimension.
Oh, great.
And the level 20.
He's having a field day.
Oh, yeah. So that's the fun part is they're like, don't send him there. Don't send him there. And he was like, well, he'll blink back if we send him anywhere else. So he's like, I'm going to send him there. So he's sent there, but he's where the source of, he's a level 20 wizard, very Ludinus-esque.
Yeah.
And he's now where there's the source of all magic. So
nice.
You guys are screwed. But anyway.
That's awesome. So not that we need to get stuck on it, but I'm assuming they weren't supposed to be fighting the level 20. It wasn't a designed final encounter.
Right, no.
So did you have some other way that you were going to pivot out of that?
No, I didn't. Well, I mean, I was going to have them just lose, I guess.
Yeah.
I was kind of comfortable with I don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't going to be he shows up and disintegrates everybody.
Yeah.
He did meteor swarm the party.
Dang.
And when I was explaining to people the damage rolls, they were like, oh, that sounds really bad. And I was like, yeah, so this is going to be 20d6 or whatever it is, 20d12. That's the fire damage. Now let's do, but there were 3 party members that are resistant to fire damage. And then someone else has an item where if they die, they get brought back once or something like that. So it just the perfect combination of it didn't wipe the party out, but it almost did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know how it was going to end up, but anyway, that's the fun part of D&D.
100%.
Okay, let's move. Without this episode getting too long, let's move ahead to, I guess the last 2 things I really want to talk about. First one's not really much to say about it, but just something I really enjoyed was the Lou Suvi. I don't want to say Lou standing up for himself because they haven't really had that kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But Lou just line in the sand. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm pressing forward. And again, not much to say about that other than I just really loved that whole exchange.
No, yeah, me too. I especially because he is now the spirit of freedom. He's just had this moment where he's kind of found his purpose, and he doesn't have time to deal with Suvi waffling on this and potentially holding him back from what he feels is his duty and purpose, So I like that. It's hey, Suvi, if you don't have this figured out yet, just stay here. I can't deal with this. I got stuff to do. So yeah, I liked that. And I really loved, you mentioned it already, but let me just pull up my notes so I don't butcher it. But that moment where he goes, drops the rope, Ame goes, and this is the perfect encapsulation of the Witch of the World's heart, right? Trying to bridge spirit and human, and Ame recognizing that and trying to be that bridge, trying to encourage Suvi, I'm not going to leave you here. You come with us. So I love her jumping on that opportunity to literally be her station. But then I really love Brennan kind of stepping in a little bit. 'Cause not that Ame was like trying to force something from Aabria, but recognizing that like this isn't as simple as like, oh, there was this moment between Ursula and Suvi, and now you're just gonna fix it and you're all gonna continue. And like Brennan was like, no, Ame, like you've done your part, but now like the rope represents this choice. Like Suvi will either decide to come or not. So I love that he like gave that agency back to Aabria in that moment to like choose instead of just making it easy of like, oh, there's no rift here. Like, let's all go together. So I thought that was a nice DM moment to kind of remove any pressure from Aabria to feel like she had to continue on now since Ame offered that olive branch. But yeah.
Well, the second thing is we already kind of mentioned it, but Steel wiping out House Ranza.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of like, is the battle over? Like, did Galfai just lose? I mean, and I'm kind of wondering about the party's plan. Like, how do they get these children out?
Yeah.
I mean, like, what if they lose and now the party's like in the middle of this castle having fought with the baddies? I mean, did they get imprisoned? Like, I don't know. It's not a good place.
Yeah. I don't think the battle's like over, but I definitely think that was a substantial blow. Like he seemed, I mean, I guess we don't know, but he seemed to be like the Steel of the Gauth side. Like you just took out the commander type of thing. And hundreds, if not, maybe not that quite many. I don't know how active he's getting with his descendants, but just took out a lot of soldiers. Which, like, yeah, how did she even do that?
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
She says, or Brennan says, like, she knows his true name.
Yeah.
Did this come from the music box? From Indri's library? Like, they had all this data that they clickety-click pulled, and we've talked a lot. You guys know our feelings about Steel. Is it possible she said, this person of the Empire is no longer welcome here? I can't believe he did that. But really, that guy knew we're heading to a confrontation, and it's of the utmost importance to get that intel back to Steel or the Citadel or whoever. Like, it's critical. We can't delay. It has to come. And that Steel played it off as like, oh yeah, that's a rogue. I can't believe he did that, But really, the intel was the true name of, maybe been uttered under the stars and captured.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of what I wondered was.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. That would be an interesting way to have that connect, though. Like, that would make sense.
Because I just think the implication of her knowing a true name, I wonder where else would she have gotten that information?
See, I didn't.
And why would she have been so interested in the conclave otherwise?
True. Yeah, I don't know. Because before you said that, I was thinking that whatever spell she was casting in that moment is like undid his name cloak. And then she found the name in that moment and then finished, but she might have gone into it knowing the name, and that was only possible because she knew the name. Which that makes more sense, I guess.
I mean, I think they both track. I mean, I definitely now don't think of her as like this 40 or 50-year-old, like, yeah, I'm pretty good at combat, I guess.
How old is she?
I don't know. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is not just like, decorated soldier who's also like the head of the army or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is an actual freaking warrior.
Yeah.
Who, you better be careful.
Yeah.
I loved pointing straight to Suvi. I'm like, what do you do? And Suvi called her mom. It's like, yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, because I definitely was picturing her more of like strategist at this point, like a little older, like she's moving the pieces on the board, not that what she is like the queen.
I kind of saw like retired warrior who now does like, what the old suits do. They, make decisions and stuff. And like, no, she's a freaking, warrior, like, watch out.
Yeah. Freaking Sword of the Citadel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was that was crazy. Which, you know, a lot of things in this episode kind of put things in perspective and scale, but like not that I imagine a Steel versus our crew fight anytime soon, but like how they couldn't, you know? So like I don't know. They got a long way to go.
Also, in mentioning scale, Brennan also mentioned like the cliffs they were either climbing up or looking over and how the frogs were gone. And he said since the great bullfrog had been destroyed, which was an interesting word because we didn't really know, was it captured, was it banished, what happened? And I mean, destroyed's a very much more harmful word.
Mm-hmm.
And but it speaks to the grand arch wizard Silence, I think.
Yeah.
Like the power in play here is pretty insane for sure.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that he used the word destroyed, but I did notice at some point in the episode they were talking about it, the characters, and Ursulon said like he thinks the bullfrog's gone. And so like I was thinking banished, but I guess they just straight up killed him or something. Which...
I mean, it could be slip of the tongue. I don't know. But,
yeah.
There was one other thing I was going to ask you about. I'm trying to remember what it was.
I wonder why this... Or go ahead.
I was going to say, what happens if they get to... Like, how sure are we that children are actually in this? Like, is there... I don't know Brennan enough to know how, like, of a maniac he could be, but is there a chance they get to the center of this castle and there are no children?
I don't know. I think, I mean, I don't know, but I think like the dark twist would be that they're like dead, not that they like weren't there. Just because like there was the whole moment with like the bullfrog looking toward that building. And I mean, maybe he could have been looking toward that building for some other reason, but I feel like it makes sense that the children thing is real. Not that you're saying it wasn't real, but
right.
But yeah, I don't know how they're gonna get them out of there, like you mentioned earlier. Like they can't teleport. They're just supposed to try to like backtrack through these tunnels. Like I don't know.
Don't they have something they took from Keen, right?
Yeah, they have some.
Like, is a teleportation thing.
Yeah, I don't know if. Yes, they do. I don't know if that's like
for everybody.
Yeah, or and like I feel like it might go to like a specific spot.
By the way, speaking of Keen, we did get confirmation that the dispelling agent is the blood of Ghost.
Yeah.
We called it. I think we called it. Or maybe
we talked about it. I don't think it wasn't like my idea. So if it was your idea, then you called it. But yeah, we definitely talked about it. Yeah, that was dark.
Sorry, Ghost.
Hopefully she's alive. What I was wondering, like, why do we know why this is such a like big like a big important battle? Like, it's important for our characters because they're trying to save these kids, but like, why? Like, is 12 Brooks just like a strategic place on the map? Like, because they talked about how this battle will go down in the history books. I'm like, what's so important about this place?
I think it's like a central port or something, or like where these places converge or something. I think it's just. I think there's probably like a land strategy element to it, and then also like an element of coincidence of like forces began to converge in this place. So I do want to go back and listen to the interlude on 12 Brooks.
Yeah,
I'm curious how it was portrayed. I never listened to it.
Yeah, me too. Because they were mentioning in the fireside that there were some like Easter eggs from that in this. And so I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But like apparently, I think like the cheese wheel that was in the tunnel that Brennan like randomly described being there, like apparently was like a punch to the gut for some reason. So
okay, I was like, "What's that about?"
Like, so I need to. I'm guessing there must have been references to their characters or something.
Man. There's something so characteristic about being a DM and being like, "And you see," and the players being like, "What is that?"
Cool.
That's your sister's name, by the way, your long lost sister. Oh my gosh. I have a sister? Yeah, it was central part of your backstory, but
too real.
But anyway. All right, I think that's gonna do it. Thank you all for listening today. We got the next episode's coming out later today.
Today, yeah.
It was delayed, so today, maybe tomorrow.
Oh, it was delayed?
It was delayed, so it's not out yet.
I didn't even see that.
They said later today, but we'll see.
Well, perfect.
But yeah, join the Discord though and chat with us about Worlds Beyond and D&D content, and we got an active Discord, and it's fun stuff.
Yes, sir. Well, as always, thanks for tuning in, y'all, and we will see you next time. Bye.